Hi, my name is Audrey Garcia, and I'm a student at San Bernardino Valley College, and this is our group presentation on is there a correlation between hustle culture and academic burnout.
Good evening, my name is Valerie and I will be discussing the introduction section. Okay, the purpose of our study is to gain a better understanding of how societal pressure impacts student academic burnout. Another purpose is to bring awareness and enable students to identify coping strategies to help manage academic stress. This study can also aid students to prioritize their well-being throughout their higher educational journey. The hypothesis is, as one's perceived amount of hustle culture pressure increases, academic burnout increases. Societal standards of hustle culture is a real phenomenon, and students are being negatively impacted by the way they are responding to these pressures. This study shows the hypothesis was supported. Hustle culture was measured by the perception of pressure felt by society. In this study, we used survey questions. Academic burnout was measured by perceived stress related to work and school achievement, and we did use a scale. Similar to this research, previous studies have found that the more compassion one has with oneself in regards to school work ethic, the less likely they are to develop academic burnout. Lee and Lee 2020. Bellini and Lamazzi 2024 also conducted that people feel that in order to achieve professional success, they must have an excess relationship with their work life.
Hi, my name is Jacob Rodriguez, and I'll be presenting the methods. The way we did our methodology is we recruit our participants through San Bernardino Valley College during the spring semester while in class. During the program, we had told them that there would be some incentives based off of the professor, but they would have to ask the professor if they would be offering extra credit for participating in our survey. And in order to do that, at the very end of the survey, you would have to take a screenshot of the verification and show it to us. For the demographics, we had a total of 41 participants. There were 30 female, 10 male, and one that was disclosed themselves as non-binary. For ethnicities, we had a total of 31 Hispanic, which was about 76%, 5 Black, which is 12%, 3 White, which is 1%, and 2 Asian and 2 self-described, which are both at 4.9%. The ages, we had a variety of ages ranging anywhere from 18 to 51. However, the majority of the ranges were from the age groups 18 to 23, which is about more than 50% of them. For the materials and the procedure, the way we conducted our survey was through an online survey. The survey took about 10 to 15 minutes, but there was no time constraints to it. The survey was based on a 5-point Likert scale, 1 representing strongly disagree, and 5 representing strongly agree. The statements given were based off of academic burnout and hustle culture. The questionnaire was also reverse coded and had irrelevant questions as well in order to confuse the participants on what exactly the survey was about while they took it. The study consisted of an informed consent prior to the questionnaire, followed by demographics questions, and after the questionnaire, a debriefing statement was provided after.
Hello, my name is Audrey, and I'll be discussing the results section. The statistical test that was used to collect the data from our survey was a Pearson R. The Pearson R was equal to 0.523, and the Pearson R squared was equal to 0.273. This means that there was a correlation found between hustle culture and academic burnout, with the significance being at less than 0.001. And as you can see to the right is a scatter plot of our variables, academic burnout by hustle culture. And there is a linearity shown by the fit line. And there is homoscedasticity with there being an even number of dots above and below the fit line. Moving forward with the results, the data represented for hustle culture was on a 1 to 5 Likert scale. 1 symbolized low hustle culture pressure experienced, and 5 symbolized high hustle culture pressure experienced. And the mean hustle culture pressure score for the data set was 3.17, and our participants on average had moderate scores of hustle culture pressure experienced. And to the right is the histogram for hustle culture. It does show a normal curve, but our mean was quite higher than the rest of the numbers. Moving on to our variable academic burnout. This data was also represented on a 1 to 5 Likert scale. 1 symbolized low academic burnout and 5 symbolized high academic burnout. The mean academic burnout score for the data set was 2.91, and our participants on average had a moderate to low score of academic burnout. And to the right is a histogram for academic burnout, and this shows a normal curve for the data. The last section of our results discusses the mean, standard deviation, and Cronbach's alpha for hustle culture and academic burnout. So the questionnaire for hustle culture received a Cronbach's alpha of 0.720, and the questionnaire for academic burnout received a Cronbach's alpha of 0.809, which means that both of our questionnaires were considered acceptable, being that Cronbach's alpha of higher than 0.70 is considered acceptable. And to the right shows our table of the standard deviations, etc. for our variables. So hustle culture, our minimum number was 1.90. Our maximum score was 4.15. Our standard deviation was 0.50, and the number of items was 20. For academic burnout, the minimum score was 1.60. The maximum score was 3.75. Our standard deviation was 0.57, and the number of items for academic burnout was 20.
Our primary hypothesis proposed that greater endorsement of hustle cultures would be positively correlated with academic burnout. Based on our statistical analysis, these hypotheses were supported. We found a significant positive correlation between hustle culture and burnout scores, suggesting that students who align more with hustle culture values are more likely to experience academic burnout. These results are consistent with prior research on the psychological impact of hustle culture. For example, Clark et al. In 2020 and Lee and Kwan in 2021 both found that hustle culture related values contributed to chronic stress and emotional exhaustion. Similarly, Sheffield and colleagues in 2002 emphasized how academic overcommitment is a predator of burnout. Our findings add to this growing body of evidence by confirming that hustle culture is not just a workplace issue, but also an academic one. There are several limitations to our studies that should be noted. First, because our data was self-reported, there is a potential for social desirability bias. Participants may have responded in ways they felt were more acceptable. Second, our sample was drawn from a single community college, which limits the generalizability of our findings. Third, the cross-sectional design of our study prevents us from making any claims about casuality. Why it matters. These results highlight the psychological cost of culture that normalizes overwork, even among college students. These findings are important because they suggest the need for intervention that promote rest, balance, and mental health awareness on college campuses. Educating students about these risks of burnouts may help them adapt healthier academic habits. In future studies, researchers could explore how culture influences long-term outcomes like graduation rates and persistent mental health issues. It would also be valuable to examine how culture or socioeconomic background affects one's engagement with hustle culture. And lastly, future research could test whether interventions such as time management training or burnout education reduces the negative effects associated with hustle mentality.
Our references are Bellini, F. and Lomazzi v. 2024, Changing Work Values Beyond Hustle Culture, Sociologia 56, in parentheses 6, 555 through 580, retrieved by Ibesco Host. Lee, K.J., and Lee, S.M., 2022, The Role of Self-Compassion in the Academic Stress Model, Current Psychology 41, in parentheses 5, 3,195 through 3,204. Zhang H., Lee S., Wong R., Hugh Q., 2023, Parental Burnout in Adolescence, Academic Burnout, Roles of Parental Harsh Discipline, Psychological Distress, and Gender, Frontiers in Psychology, 14, 1122986 through 1122986. Yu J, Wong Y, Tang X, Wu Y, Tang X, and Wong J, 2021. Impact of Family Cohesion and Adaptability on Academic Burnout of Chinese College Students, Serial Meditation of Peer Support, and Positive Psychological Capital, Frontier in Psychology 12, 767616 through 767616, retrieved by Ibesco Host.